I'd like to call the Town of Cedar Lake Plan Commission work session, March 1st, 2023, to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing. Bob?
We'd like to take this moment of time and remember retired police officer Edgar Prater, who passed away, and we also lost one of our former town council members, Pam Pittman. So let's remember them both. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Bob. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carnahan?
Here.
Mr. Foreman?
Present.
Ms. Stetshauer is absent. Mr. Sharp?
Here.
Mr. Parker?
Here.
Mr. Kefura?
Present.
Mr. Oliphant?
Here.
Mr. Austin?
Present.
Mr. Salatas?
Present.
Ms. Abernathy? Present. Ms. Hyduk is present.
Okay, this is work session. First order of business is Railside rezone and preliminary plat. Owner Hen Holdings LLC, 10702 West 141st Avenue. I'll turn the mic around now. Okay. Petitioner, this law, P.O. Box 980, Cedar Lake, Indiana, vicinity of 10702 West 141st Avenue, Cedar Lake. Petitioner is requesting a rezone from agriculture to a planned unit development in a preliminary plat for a 29-lot subdivision.
Mr. Chairman, Planning Commission, good to be with you all again this evening here. We are at the planning stages here, but I believe, based on conversations with town officials, with Mr. Oliphant and with Mr. Austin, that I believe we're very close to getting the green light this evening for putting forward public notice and hearing this at your next public meeting later this month. You should have in your packets this evening a rough draft of the protective covenants, a proposed final development agreement, and a proposed final for the PUD. As we shared at the last meeting, there are 3 outlots located on this proposed development, which are going to be used to house stormwater. Preliminarily, we had conversation about these being taken over by the town and maintained by the town. After further discussion, we agreed good public policy to have these maintained by the developer in an association. So one of the items that we've crafted in a manner both to protect the development as well as to protect the town is a set of covenants. And I'm not going to go through the 14 or 15 pages of covenants here. No need to bore us with that, but a couple things that I just wanted to emphasize. The emphasis of these covenants is to create an association that's preliminarily run by the developer that will eventually be turned over to the lot owners, and the purpose of this association is to be able to extract assessment fees from the 28 lot owners to pay for the maintenance of outlots A, B, and C, and the related stormwater infrastructure that is tied to them. The other item that I've referenced herein is that this association is perpetual. Oftentimes, an association will have language that says after 30 years, the lot owners can move to void it and terminate it. That's absolutely not the case. We recognize that this must run with the land and that these 28 lot owners must maintain these outlots and pay for it. The other item, as I mentioned it in conversation with Mr. Austin, is we've also included language within these proposed covenants that says if ever the town of Cedar Lake believes that the association is not maintaining these outlots to the standards that are required, they have the ability to put the association on notice. If that fails to result in action, then the town can step in, take appropriate action, and then bill that back to the landowners to make sure that your citizenry is made whole. A couple of the other outside items that I've also placed within this set of covenants is I've replicated language within the PUD about outside storage. I've indicated language in there that references landscaping, how the lot owners are supposed to maintain their ownership other items, just briefly to highlight, one of the items that came up in conversation in the design phase with Mr. Oliphant and Mr. Austin is, well, what happens if before we put a final coat on, or we put the final coat on, but we're not done with the development yet, somebody's building, say on lot 15, they damage the roadway, who's going to pay for it? And what I've worked into this particular set of covenants is that the association has the ability to go back after that lot owner to make sure that the town, when they receive the roadways at the end of the day, is getting a proper roadway that is built pursuant to specs. Any questions off of what has been raised so far?
I would just like to mention again about this baseball-shaped diamond plate that isn't in the town's limit. It's about 192.13 square feet. I can't understand why somebody would even want that.
Well, Mr. Carnahan, if I had the ability to delve into the mind of what went on 30 years ago, I'd probably be on a beach in the Bahamas somewhere. But you and me both will continue to wonder about what went on there about 3 decades ago.
Okay.
But if you see that one go up for sale, feel free to buy it and donate it to the town or to the association.
Yeah, get it incorporated.
It's the one long holdout. All right, moving along then to the development agreement. See that in front of you, very minor changes that have been made there. Mr. Chairman, I would note, since we preliminarily started to where we are at right now, is we are at the point of 28 commercial lots within the development, so that is a change on the first page that you will note of the development agreement, the first paragraph there. Second change is going back and forth with your engineer on paragraph 7. We've clarified some language in there as to the timing as to when the bond needs to be posted and the maintenance letter when that needs to be posted, as well as cleaned up the language that Mr. Oliphant wanted as to when my clients can request a reduction upon all required inspections, testings, and as-builts. The last change since our last meeting is applied to paragraph 9, subsection C. We had referenced in there for some stormwater credits, but going back and forth with Don, he pointed out that the section that we had initially referenced in there required that the stormwater be tied to a public waterway or drainage ditch of some form. These clearly do not, so we've referenced a separate section of the code that still allows for my client to seek credits for stormwater infrastructure. Any questions on development agreement? Nope. All right, then we'll continue right along into the PUD. First, we'll turn our attention to, on page 8, Don had about 15 items that he had identified in review of the PUD. For paragraph 2, sought that we would specifically enunciate what section of the code was referenced for landscape plan, signage, and lighting plan. That has been now put in within the document. Secondarily, if we turn our attention to page 10, we anticipate that on either the B3 lots or on the M1 zoning, it may be that we have folks that purchase that want to put multiple uses on one lot. And what we've built into the PUD is that they automatically can engage in multiple uses on one lot so that they don't need to come back before either this plan commission or before the BZA. We turn our attention to page 12, maximum building area lot coverage. We had been in discussion the past 4 or 5 months that we were seeking that each lot could have a 65% building and structure lot coverage area. My understanding that both my client and the town are still in approval of that. What Mr. Oliphant has requested, and I certainly appreciate that, is that we add in some engineering language which expresses that this is subject to engineering review for any stormwater drainage or any particular items affecting the property. So I anticipate before we get to our public hearing next week, we'll have agreement on that language between Don, myself, and our engineer. Accurate, Don?
Yep.
Good.
Okay.
With regards to the minimum front yard, if you look, I've got a colored picture for you with regards to what the proposed layout's going to be. If you take a look at lots 1 and 2, those are the B3 lots which abut 141st Avenue. When it comes to lots such as that, oftentimes you might find a client that wishes to put their building or parking lot as close as they can to the roadway there. We'd like to do it, but again, it depends upon some on-ground conditions there. So I've proposed that the parking lot or building can be as close as allowed by the town of Cedar Lake engineer pursuant to, site triangles calculations along 141st Avenue. And that's for lots 1 and 2 that immediately abut 141st Avenue. Other minor changes that we've made, turning to page 13, for the side yards. You'd asked for clarification at our last meeting as to how close parking lot, storage lot areas could be for the side yards of the lot, as well as how close a building could be. And you'll see that we've updated redline on paragraph 8, both section A and B, that for B3 zones, a side yard may commence within 10 feet from the side lot edge, and then that may be for the parking lot as well. And then we've got similarly for the M1 zone, that would be 15 feet from the side yard edge.
So the front 2 lots, Nathan, 1 and 2 are B3, the rest are M1?
So if you look at the color coding in there,
Or just the
Mr.
blue?
Foreman,
Yeah.
lots 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 27, and 28, the darker green are the
Oh, I see.
B3, and
Okay.
the lighter green is the M1.
Right, got it.
Yep,
So just those.
correct.
Thank you.
One item I would note is that on lot 2, you'll see it's very faint there, but there is a significant easement that runs through lot 2 and then the backs of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for potable water that's run through that area. But there's about an 8-foot span between lot 2 and where the edge of that easement is, and then that residential home that's right next to it. I've proposed within the PUD, and Don, correct me if you don't want this, but that my clients, they're required to have a hedge of some form between their property and a residential property. I would presume that they would be allowed to build or to put within that space their green hedgerow to separate. There's about 8 to 10 feet that's located there.
Yeah, to an extent they would be allowed because the easement swings.
It's got a funky shape through there.
Yeah, but there's also a low spot back there we're trying to maintain, so it's going to be a balance.
Okay,
So that's something that just came up today with Jack and I. So
okay.
yeah.
Something we can resolve in the next
Yeah.
2 weeks? Okay, perfect, thanks. For the rear yard, then turning to page 14, one of the items that Don had referenced is that both on the west side, so that's lot 16 all the way down to 2, there's that easement running alongside the western edge that's about 15 to 20 feet. And then on the eastern side along the railway, we've got a variety of swales and other drainage easements, and we have been trying to push to put a parking lot or the back area construction lot as far back as possible, and Don had requested language that any setbacks are subject to any easements located on any of these properties, and we've inserted that language with the rear yards. When it comes to page 15, we'll note that there's a couple of lots that are adjacent to these outlots, these blue water spaces that we call them, recognizing that you've got no businesses next door, you've got no residential next door, you just have water space. I've pushed the boundaries there that a parking lot or building areas can be relatively close to those blue water spaces as an effort for those lot owners to maximize their lot space, and that's found on page 15, paragraph 11. Last item that required updating per Mr. Oliphant's review was on page 18, and we've updated when it comes to the stormwater collection system, both referencing the 10-year and the detention pond size for a 100-year event. And those are all the changes that we've made per engineering review. My understanding is that Mr. Austin is still reviewing some of these items. We talked earlier today. We are, I believe, in relative agreement on everything. There's a couple items that we can work through in the next 2 weeks here, but we are requesting that we be put on the public agenda at the middle of March and be prepared for a public meeting.
Okay. You have any comments? No?
Yeah, no, I do have a couple, actually. First of all, Nathan's recitation is accurate about what you have and what's been talked about and worked through. I had a couple of questions, though, John, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Nathan, I didn't see in the materials a site plan that reflected the coverage amendment, if you will, to a zoning lot do you have such a plan or an exhibit? And here's the reason I'm asking. We have one opportunity with a careful review and public hearing process to make sure this is right. Once it's approved, and we don't have a good visualization of what it is and we're comfortable with it, it's what's going to be built. And to the credit of the business owner and to the detriment perhaps of the town. So I'm asking for that reason, that they can get a visualization of what's on paper by delineation of what the setbacks, we talked about setbacks tonight, the size of structures that are contemplated with the coverage percentages shown. I think it was 65%. I don't remember in the history of Cedar Lake that we've ever seen that much coverage request, so it's new to us. It's in a location it belongs, but I want you to see that. I think you need to. And then the issue of the surety is still, in my mind, open in the sense of why is there a necessity for a change in that term vis-a-vis this project as opposed to others. We've been put in position in the past to pursue surety in the times of non-compliance or incompletion or whatever. And I'm just curious as to what the justification and consideration is that would warrant that in this case, in this project. I don't think we did it on the Newbar project. I don't think we've done it anywhere else, to be honest. So that's why I'm asking for the kind of document that kind of picture it for us.
Sure, and I believe in the engineering documents that have been submitted, and that was an extensive packet based on the size of the project, we do have all of these setbacks and other items outlined, Dave, and I can get those pulled, work with Jack, and get that sent to the commission by the end of this week, so you have an opportunity here in the next 2 weeks to have that digested, and I'll work with Jack tomorrow by the end of the week to get that sent out. But yeah, that's definitely been a part of the engineering submittals, is the setbacks, the swales that are shown. And some of these lots, they are significant on the east side. With regards to the other item, the surety bond, Mr. Austin, it's a good question. With the straight shot that's presented here for the public infrastructure, it's my client's intention to do it all in one fell swoop. They're not anticipating that there's going to be long delay with the development of it all. Their goal is to break ground as soon as we have approval and to have public infrastructure done and complete, hopefully by this fall. So based upon the fact that it's a straight shot, we're not dealing with a lot of changes, so to speak, off branches. The goal is to get it done in one fell swoop, and that's the justification for it. Correct.
Okay. That helps.
Don, do you have anything?
I guess to go on the surety requirements that he's proposing right now, that they're proposing right now, I don't think it's a whole lot different than what we require. I think the only real big difference would be the final surfacing before the lots are constructed, which is exactly what Lakeview asked for. All the other requirements have been revised to be in accordance with what we require, so 110%. Maintenance 25 for 3 years, and then everything is contingent on satisfactory compliance with testing, as-built, that whole thing. So I don't think we're deviating from our requirements a whole lot, minus the 80% standard, which is exactly what we granted Lakeview. I think everything else is the same, as far as I know. I mean, I don't know if we need to say a lot of this stuff in Section 7, because it is kind of verbatim to our code. I don't know if we just state the deviation and make it clear and simple.
Simple works.
Yeah, but that's the only deviation that I'm aware of that they're asking for right now, is to surface and then convert, which would be a little earlier than normal.
But he also has a clause in there, in one of those documents, that if they damage the roadway, that you have the power, or
Well,
we have to go to the owner who damaged it.
Correct, and that was something that came up. Mr. Oliphant has been very emphatic discussing that while if we are going to be allowed to put a final top coat on, please realize that if someone damages that roadway before we transfer ownership of the roadway over to the municipality, we want it in tip-top shape. So what I was looking for there, Mr. Chairman, was some sort of leverage that my client would have to go back to the involved construction owner, person who damaged, to be able to pay for, to make sure that we sign over this roadway, the town's getting what you demanded per your ordinances.
I think that language probably has to be reviewed a little bit, because I don't know what leverage that gives the town to enforce it. I don't know if the town's comfortable in leaving that up to the developer and the owner. That doesn't leave the town a whole lot of teeth to move it if that doesn't work. So I'll let you and David discuss that.
Yeah, and ultimately the owner, my client, would be responsible before we turn it over. But
Yeah, but if we've already flipped into maintenance, our surety just dropped a lot. Depending what the damages were, the damages have to be reflective of what money we're holding to a point. And if for some reason these lots take greater than 3 years to build out, and now there's no surety, what happens then?
So I appreciate that, so I could work with Dave in the next 2 weeks here for some town allowance to enforce.
Yeah.
Yep. Good observation.
Any other comments? Chris, anything, building? No?
Public hearing has been prepared and sent over to Katie at DVG team for publishing, as long as you guys approve it going on the agenda.
Chris, actually, Mr. Austin, would this then be a part of the TIF off of 41, or would we have to incorporate this separately?
It would be, it is incorporated, on
When we brought that-
Route 41, economic development area that we did last year.
Yes, did it go
This parcel was absolutely included.
It was included?
Yes.
Okay, super. I couldn't remember if it was or wasn't.
John, we picked up the Duval parcel also.
I don't think the south part of this property is included.
I couldn't remember, so that's what I was wondering.
Thought it was.
It is.
Okay.
The county's not showing it as included, but they're not always right.
Well, that isn't usually documentation that's put on a plat or a PUD, that's,
Right.
I've got an ordinance and a resolution, and our clerk treasurer does too.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll double check.
Thank you.
That was, Mr. Foreman, we made haste last year off the redevelopment commission to make sure that we could annex in timely and then modify the TIF to expand and include this.
Yeah, because that's huge for the community.
Absolutely.
Just to give you an update on engineering, we issued our second comment letter on the 22nd. We've talked to Jack, and Nate actually submitted his revised PUD today. So we will be working over the next 2 weeks to push this through.
Any other discussion? You'll have everything for us in 2 weeks?
You will have everything. I'll get you some drawings to digest by Friday. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to myself or Jack. If there's others that have questions, we can definitely make ourselves available on a phone call, as long as we don't have a quorum on the call. Happy to do that.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no other questions on that, see you in 2 weeks.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys brought the real estate arm tonight, so you must be getting ready to sell this lot, huh?
Number 2, L&L Capital Assets LLC Concept Plan. Owner petitioner, L&L Capital Assets LLC, 11125 Delaware Parkway, Crown Point, vicinity of 13310 West 133rd Drive, Cedar Lake, Indiana. Petitioner is requesting a concept plan for a rezone from R1 to RT.
Evening, gentlemen.
Hi,
Brad
name and
Lambert.
address, please.
Brad Lambert with L&L Capital Assets, 1125 Delaware Parkway, Crown Point. My partner, Eric Lindemuller. Yeah, Legacy Insurance, and what's your address?
P.O. Box 2009, Cedar Lake, Indiana.
Okay.
So right off the bat, I want to make a clarification here, and I apologize, maybe this wasn't clear when we sent our revised, site plan to Ashley was that, you know, we are no longer requesting the rezone from R1 to RT. The revised plan that we sent, that I think this is in your packet there, is showing, you know, two single-family homes on that lot. So we are actually seeking tonight just the, you know, the blessing from the commissioners to proceed with turning that one lot subdivision into a two-lot subdivision, and then also to seek, some side yard variances, actually on the one corner lot that would be considered still a front yard variance, even though that was previously granted when that lot was, originally brought for a one-lot subdivision, by the previous owner. We understand that we do have to resubmit for, those variances on the new construction that we're proposing on the lot now.
The request here states R1, RT.
That was what has carried over from last month.
Right, but do they have to file new paperwork or new request, or no? No?
You guys had requested, you guys invited them back to come back this month for concept plan. This is what their updated plan was. This is just.
Okay, just understood. Okay.
So these are just single-family homes?
Yes.
Okay. So would the zoning need to be changed based on the lot size then, Chris, or?
Potentially.
Yeah, it's
So
R1, right?
if they
It's
split
R1,
up.
right? So it would have to be
R2.
changed?
To R2.
Right.
Unless they're two individual lots.
Unless those two lots fit the R1 designation.
No, you need 15,000
Yeah,
for,
these are 12,
I think, for each one.
A good sized lot.
12,400-ish.
R2 would better fit this concept plan.
Or they would need a developmental variance if they want to keep it R1. So if they split it equally in half, it'd be about 12,490 and a half square feet,
Each.
which each, and it's 15,000 requirement for R1. So it's, and it's a little larger for a corner in R1, so we either need to rezone to RT, and then we're still a little shy on the corner, because that's.
You mean R2?
R2, yeah.
Okay.
My apologies, because that's 12,500 square feet requirement for a corner lot. They need a variance for the 10 feet.
Or make that lot a little bit bigger?
Or move the property line a little bit and make the corner lot match the R2. But lot coverage would be good.
R2 is 10,000, yeah.
Yeah, 10,000.
So you want to change it to a two-lot subdivision,
Yes, sir.
R2,
Okay.
and then you're gonna move that property line so you don't need a variance, right?
Which property line is
Yeah.
It would have to be the corner property line.
Yeah.
So the one that would run on both 133rd Drive and 133rd Ave would be considered a corner lot, and we require 12,500 square feet for a corner lot. If you divide it
Okay.
evenly in half, you're at 12,490 and a half.
Yeah,
Oh.
understood. We were, tonight.
Give them a foot.
Okay, yeah,
To that
we
lot.
can make that happen. Okay,
Yes.
because it lays out almost exactly the way that we had to scope, but I think another foot's not gonna matter.
Eric, you've been taking CAD classes? This is a pretty good drawing in 2 weeks.
Brad is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Dave, I guess from the zone change to R1 to R2, aren't we still on the same slope with a precedent with the zoning map?
Yeah, we probably are in the technical sense, but the field circumstances have changed to kind of finding a balance with the available land area to make this work. It sounds to me as though a relatively simple replat for a two-lot subdivision that comes as close as practical.
And leave the zoning R1 then, right?
Well, if they're gonna build two houses, it's the same, again, we're talking technical legal versus practical use of the land.
I understand that. I guess the point that I'm trying to avoid is somebody somewhere else has or runs across or purchases a similar property, and then they wanna come in and change the zone from R1 to R2 in a R1 zoning.
Greg, I agree with you, but I could easily make this case standing up there for these gentlemen about, just the land layout and the area and how close it is in terms of meeting the area for the zoning district parcel.
I guess I understand that, but I guess I'm failing to understand is what's the difference if they just do a subdivision, make 2 lots out of it, and leave it R1 zoning?
They would then have to go for the BZA for multiple variances, so going to an R2 zoning would eliminate, depending on how they do this, but would eliminate a number of developmental variances.
And we still get 2 lots of record, 2 new homes that are R2 in size or area, and accomplish the end objective.
How big are the homes approximately?
They're a little bit less than our R2 requirement, they're 1,400, it looks like 16 square feet, I think we're 1,610 on R2, aren't we?
1,500 for R2.
Yeah.
Okay. And then on ground level, this is single story, right?
So 1,500 for R2, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm reading right here, and it's single story, right?
Yep, same.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's 1,500, and you're at 14.
Hey, it's 1,410.
14, 16.
What is it?
16, 14, 16.
14, 16
Yeah.
is livable.
We can modify it to make it a little bit larger.
I just gotta meet the 1,500.
To fit,
Yeah.
1,500, yeah.
that's not a problem.
Yeah, I think we've got plenty of room in the front yards to be able to make it a little bit deeper if we need to.
So, Ashley, you're saying it's best to, have them change the zoning, you're thinking? Or, because I think Greg's idea isn't bad, if they have to go for one variance in the BZA, what's the difference between 1 and 5, right? Is that what you're thinking, Greg?
It would be your preference, if it would either need to be a developmental variance to allow for a reduction in lot size from the R1 zoning classification, which for the interior lot would be the 1,500, or the 15,000 square feet. A corner lot is required to be.
Either way, they have to do a plat and surveys and everything else that goes with
Yes,
it.
and they'll still need at least one variance for the front yard setback off of 133rd Drive
And the rear.
and the rear, on both lots. What was the rear, back when they first got the original variance back in 2020, those 20 on the south
Yeah.
side would then no longer be needed, because then that would become an interior lot, and that would be
Right,
Pulling out.
got it. So why, well, I went back there and checked out this lot the first time you guys came in, but does it drop off? Is there a reason to have the houses so far to the west?
Yes, it's a pretty big drop.
Oh, it is, okay.
Yep, and
So that's the flat.
there's already a slab on there, so we're trying
Oh,
to
I see.
utilize the concrete.
I got you.
That's already on there.
I
Yeah, it's a pretty big drop, so it'll be,
Yeah, it is a hill.
it'll be a
It'll be
hill, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that was the reason for going back so far, 20 feet?
Right.
So that's a variance automatic.
Yeah, when I did that overlay there, I was trying to, John, line it up with the existing slab that was there as best as possible.
I gotcha.
Which is the 20-foot.
Dave, I have another question.
Gotcha.
Does that meet based on the education that we just got with the boards and commissions, does that meet the definition of a hardship for a variance? Because they wanna build 2 houses instead of 1? If
No,
we-
that probably doesn't, with the lay of the land, the contours of the property, probably is what they would need to rely on. You know, the front yard step off, where it's at on the side of the hill, and, the parcel itself, contours. And there's law about that.
And what John said about why is it so far west? It really needs to be farther to the west, because that curve, people fly around that curve going back into the trailer court, and Chris just told me that's a vision triangle there in the corner that they'd require.
Is it a private road or a public road?
Public.
The town would have some responsibilities then too.
So they need to go to the BZA next,
So they gotta do one or the other, I guess we need to figure out which one they need to do.
well, they need to figure out which one they need to do. But,
That's right, John.
Yeah.
correct. Which way are you gonna go? Let me ask you that.
Well, and that was part of the reason, obviously, for coming here tonight, you know, was with the new concept plan and, you know, pretty much abandoning the quest for the RT and, coming back with the single-family homes. You know, as far as, you know, consulting our engineer and, you know, what would be best in terms of, moving things around, that was part of the reason being here tonight too, is just to get some guidance from the, commission, saying that, you know, kind of what you guys would prefer to see.
What are
And,
what are you proposing? What are the two options? I guess I'm not following.
Well, I'm not proposing anything,
Oh,
you're going, you wanna go to R2,
yeah.
two lot subdivision R2.
It seems like less variances from what everyone is saying to do
Yeah.
R2, but I guess it's all the same thing. If you want R1, we just have to apply for a bunch more variances.
I think I would just go for the R2 and make
Go
the
for that,
change.
just make it
That
easy.
makes the cleanest, don't you think?
I'd prefer to see R2 there, but, you know, it's,
Yeah.
what you.
I think the R2 fits the best, because then there's only the one, what do you say, there's just one thing?
There
Oh,
there
just
needs to
don't,
be some
don't
setbacks.
split it evenly, yep, and then the setbacks.
How much R1 is in there?
That was what I was just asking.
It's all R1.
That's all R1?
Well,
Trailer park?
that L and back, not the trailer
That's
park.
right.
Trailer park PUD.
And then there's a couple of random ones.
Yeah, there's like a random M1 once you go north. Then you get into the storage facility, which is an M1, I think. But everything in the residential corridor right there in that tower is all R1.
It looks like there's one small R2.
One tiny guy.
One tiny guy, right next to the storage facility.
Yeah, that's like that's like an R2 and M1 and M1. It's dark red colored, purple.
So it's adjacent to an R2 right now?
No, it's adjacent to an R1 and the railroad, technically.
Adjacent to M1.
No, well, you have to cross the right of way.
See R1 right next to the
Immediate
road?
south is R1.
Okay.
I think the one just across the street is the R2,
Yeah.
just north.
And then it's M1 if you
The
hit.
train out beyond.
How much is buildable there now? How much is vacant?
Well, that whole area that WPM owned is still vacant.
Is there a platted lot?
Yeah, it's on the other side.
One more.
And that's
One
R1.
It's R1, yeah.
Oh, the lakefront along?
The
Oh,
lakefront,
the current-
over.
Oh, I didn't know.
And in the subdivision itself, there's maybe one.
Oh.
20,000 feet.
24,
Just a half acre.
Vacant, you talking?
a little over.
One vacant?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's what it appears.
okay.
Well, I don't see much difference, you're gonna wind up with the same, basically wind up with the same two houses, whether it's R1 or R2.
Basically.
And to make it the simplest for everybody involved, I think R2 is the way to go, if that's what they choose, but that's up to them.
I could see hardship definitions being a problem at the BZA level, maybe.
If we went R1, you're saying?
If you
If we
want.
went R1, it'd be harder.
Yeah, there'd be a lot of
A lot of extra things to
variances, and
explain.
that opens a bag of worms for someone else at R1 there.
I'd
It's
rather
probably
do the
cleaner
R2.
R2.
Yep, R2, we propose.
All right, this is a concept plan, so what's your next step then?
So we have to, we need to go to our engineer and, say, hey, we're gonna go to BZA for a, rezoning here R2, and we can, make our site plan to, fit all of those, things in there, in that ordinance, and bring it back to the BZA and request that, right?
Yep.
Move the property line, to 10 foot, or whatever is needed, increase the size of the homes, approximately 50 square feet.
When
And,
you're,
Hey, John,
when you're ready to apply concurrently, apply for your BZA and your plan stuff at the same time.
Okay,
That way it's running at the same time. So
okay,
you'll do your 2-lot sub and your rezone, and then any variances you need.
okay,
And the rezone doesn't go to the BZA, it comes to the planning commission with a recommendation to the town council.
okay.
I think Dave has a comment, John.
yes, sir.
we could eliminate all this by having a PUD, an R2 PUD come to us. That takes care of everything.
Have a what?
R2 PUD.
But it's not big enough, is it?
We took out the 10,000, or the 10-acre requirement, any
Fine.
size property can be a PUD.
It could be a simple zone change with a site plan and PUD agreement, simple PUD agreement.
Dave, I have, at the risk of my peril here, I have my own thoughts about these PUDs. I'm not even, I think this commission needs to have some discussion on whether they want to be so inviting to PUDs anymore after we attended the Dave Austin, seminar the other night.
I think it's only fair to tell you that any community, every jurisdiction in this area sees PUDs predominantly.
I understand that they do, but I feel like when they're presented, we don't have enough discussion about the subdivision control ordinance and the quality of things that are brought here. And I know there's a significant amount of the residents here that are tired of seeing all this density over and over and over again. And I'm just saying, from a plan commission perspective and a quality of life perspective and representing the residents' perspective, some of that needs to be looked at before we just do these, because I can't remember the last time somebody brought a subdivision in here and wanted to adhere to the subdivision control ordinance. What's the sense in even having it? And why can't we have some discussion about what we're gonna have?
We actually do have some on the east side of town, and those are relatively recent. So it does happen, Greg. The only offer I made was about a solution. That's all. There's a lot of tricks in the bag, and this is one of them.
I understand.
That's all I'm saying.
Just seems to-
Policy call as to how you all feel about PUDs. how you-
And that's all I'm saying. I think going forward, the plan commission needs to have some discussion about PUDs and how they wanna approach and if the majority wants to continue down the road we've been on, well, that's fine. But I still think there needs to be some discussion about it.
Well, on the Beacon Point West, we, insisted upon larger, almost full-scale lot sizes. So, we got away from the small, no backyard type of, PUDs. Well, that was a start, and that's the way I like to see it continue is PUDs, I think, will offer a lot, but I think you have to insist upon certain size lots for them. You can't go down to the real small ones and cram, like you say, 1,000 homes into where maybe,
It's just, I mean, if from a big picture view, it's a tax.
Sure.
And I don't know this is the right environment in the middle of their presentation on that discussion, but it came up, so.
well, they'll know for their next
sometimes it came up,
development.
I think Dave is just suggesting to them that that's another option that they can pursue if they want to do that or one of the other things they heard.
so, yeah.
Correct, Dave?
It is, Bob, and thank you for that. We're gonna face a lot of pressure from developers over the next handful of years about this, so the discussion to be had ought to be had, probably ought to be had at council level with planners, you, and know that that's coming. Every meeting that's had here in this town hall with developer people, I'll yield to my town manager about this in a second. Everyone comes out and it's about density, it's about amenities with density, it's about you know, their project fitting into this community. And PUD is at the core of it.
I understand that, but the other side of that coin, that's always gonna be the developer's stance on a PUD or a development in general. But the plan commission, the BZA, and the town council isn't here to represent the developers, they're here to represent the residents, and I think that needs to be a constant reminder to the people who are serving elected and appointed. It's not my job to make sure that, and that's not, I don't feel like that's what I'm here for, is to make sure that a PUD gets crammed in and, the bottom line gets served for the developer. You know, that's just,
All right, I think, this is discussion that could be taken up at the end of one of our sessions under commissioners.
maybe tonight we should do that at the end of this
Well,
work session.
afterwards, but not now. So therefore, based on what Dave said, you got three options. I would suggest you go back, think about the three options and decide what you want to do. I don't totally understand the PUD right now that Dave was talking about, but,
It would be PUD zoning instead of R2, correct?
yeah, but I mean, with the size lot, do they need a variance for that?
No.
No, you do it inside the PUD.
But we'd have to approve a PUD.
Okay.
Well, the actual PUD zoning ordinance goes to the council. On recommendation from you, you conduct a public hearing.
All right, well, we can just, you've got three options. You go back, figure out what you want to do, let Ashley know, and then we'll continue this conversation at the end of this meeting tonight about PUDs and that, which really, you know, you don't have to sit through and listen to that because it doesn't pertain to you at this point.
Sure.
Okay.
Sounds good. We'll coordinate with
Yeah.
Ashley and get her the stuff and.
Yeah, I think,
Worry about that.
I think new houses back here is gonna kickstart that whole area, especially with you saying with that property being available, it could be all brand new.
Eventually,
Be a
that
great
has to
place to have a
develop,
house.
I think.
All right.
It's a better concept than what they originally brought in.
I agree with that.
Yes. Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Number 3. Culver Site Plan, owner petitioner, Cedar Lake, RE LLC, John Ryan Terpstra, 11-13-1 Fairbanks Court, Crown Point, vicinity 9717 West 133rd Avenue, Cedar Lake. Petitioner is requesting site plan approval for a new restaurant. Hi.
Good evening, everybody, thank you. You identified me correctly, I won't repeat my name and address, that was all very well done, thank you. I'm here in my individual capacity tonight, not as an attorney representative, which is a little different, but nonetheless, I'd like to say hello to staff and Mr. Carnahan, how you doing? Nice to
All right,
see you again, haven't seen you in a while.
We had his presence here, he, was the attorney for Cedar Lake Ministries.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing to bring up, so, well, you know, man, appreciate it.
I recall, John, you were hanging
You're
around.
just trying to save your experience.
No, you know what, that was a good, partnership project that we all worked on together, and that was unique. But yeah, that was, well, it's over, and it's behind us, and hopefully things are okay still. So what I'm here to do is address any questions that you all may have. Mr. Oliphant was kind enough to send over his comments dated February 24. I did speak with Don Toringa on those items. Don, I think someone earlier mentioned something about a beach in the Bahamas, and Don is on vacation this week, so maybe that's where he is. But he is coming back and will address more of the engineering things with Mr. Oliphant. Then we're hoping to get revised plans in and approved, or not approved, but at least agreed upon by the 10th with a narrative on the revisions that we made, so everyone's clear on those. And at the end of my presentation tonight, I will ask that we be placed on the agenda for the public hearing set for later this month. To Ashley's point earlier, we do have a concurrent application for certain variances from developmental standards. Those were noted in Mr. Oliphant's correspondence, those being parking in the front yard setback, outdoor dining, electronic message board sign, total sign area, a pylon sign within 10 feet of the front yard setback. Those are the 5 variances from developmental standards that we are applying for. That hearing is gonna be on March 9.
Next Thursday.
9, correct? Yeah, on the 9th, so I'll be back here on the 9th, not before you all, but before the BZA. Hopefully they will give a favorable recommendation for approval. The detention easement, is another thing that was noted over the underground storage area for stormwater runoff. Because we have such a large impervious area on this lot, we're going to implement underground storage for our stormwater runoff. We are in conversation with Mr. Oliphant to make sure that that is completed and to his liking. How would you like me to do this? Would you like me to go through your correspondence or just hold off on that? I mean,
You don't have to.
there's quite a few things,
No,
but,
you don't have to go through it.
I did talk to Don. Don is on it.
Yeah.
Some of these things like,
He's definitely out of the, somewhere.
yeah.
I know he's out this week.
Yeah, he's out.
Yeah.
Ryan is there, but I think it'd be better just to hold off until we talk to Don.
Yeah.
Would you explain, where this is and what you're
Oh, yeah.
trying to do and stuff there?
Sure, great. It's gonna be located at 9717 West 133rd Avenue. That's the address memorized, which is the old Chase Bank building. I think it was the DeMott State Bank a long time ago, perhaps. We are going to demolish that building and develop it into a Culver's restaurant. There is going to be, I would assume that in your packet you have a copy of the site plan, at least the concept drawing. There will be 2 points of ingress and egress. The recommendation is for the easternmost ingress and egress that will go onto 133rd be exit only. We are amenable to that. We think that makes sense for the flow of traffic. You queue for the drive.
The easternmost,
Yes,
the exit only, it shows an entrance on that
correct. Yes.
diagram.
So we are going to resubmit that concept plan, that site plan,
Okay.
so that it's egress only. Which makes sense because we're going through the drive, we queue on the east side of that property. Once you get your food, just go straight out. We'll have a left turn lane and a right turn lane, we'll be good to go.
Similar to Dairy Queen?
I don't know what Dairy Queen's looks
They-
like, but yeah, I only see people exiting from that side,
Yeah,
correct?
they enter, from the west side and then exit from the east side.
Yeah. The only difference is we are going to have ingress and egress on the western portion that goes in and out from 133rd Avenue. And then we'll have another point of ingress and egress that goes out the public alleyway on the south side of the property as well. The flow of traffic will be, that would be counterclockwise. You will enter through the east side. There will be a designated drive area, a pass-through lane. You'll have your parking area to the west of the building for those that come in and dine in. You will have to the west of those parking spaces a dedicated drive lane for drive-through traffic to come around to a double drive-through. There will be some parking on the southernmost portion of the parcel that will be designated for our team members to park. That should be adequate for our team members to park there. Guests will park on the west side of the building. As they come around, there will be, I believe, 3 lanes and then a pass-through lane for queuing on the drive-through area, which should be sufficient, especially with the double drive. And the new concept that we're piloting now is with tablet ordering, such as you see at, I hate to say the name, but Chick-fil-A, or Portillo's as well. I don't like to say that either, Bob, but thank you. That is a proven concept that I think you're gonna push cars through a lot quicker, so you're not gonna see a lot of standing vehicles for a long time. There was a recommendation in Mr. Oliphant's correspondence that mentions there are some diagonal parking spaces on the east side of the parcel, just outside of the drive-through window. The recommendation is the northernmost parking spot be deleted so that we have a more free flow of traffic for pass-through and emergency vehicles. I'm going to talk to Mr. Torringa about that and see what that does to our flow of traffic, et cetera. There is also a recommendation as to the signage at the ingress and egress points, if it's placed in the easement, to have black powder-coated pylons and a black surround. That's going to, full disclosure, I'll let you know that that's going to be complicated on my end to get that past the Culver franchising system. We have very specific brand marks and brand colorings that we need to adhere to make sure that every Culvers in the nation is uniform when it comes especially to signage. I'll approach that, but I don't know if I can get that accomplished. So that might be something that we'll have to have a conversation about. There's also another piece within the correspondence that mentions an increase from .93 to .98 impervious surface, and if you increase that impervious surface, there are some added requirements. So I'm going to talk to Mr. Torringa about creating some additional space that is not impervious, and see if we can bring it in line with what is existing there currently. But
Yeah,
again,
you could put those, the pavers that are pervious.
okay,
They have them up there at T&J Landscaping.
okay,
The whole drive going back, they have all pervious pavers in. So
okay,
you can take 1 or 2 spots and, or whatever square footage you needed
Got it.
to gain.
So, I mean, the genesis of that comment is, this is one of the first parcels in town, and this program has been in place for close to 8, 9, almost 10 years. Essentially, if there's an existing development that's 80% or more impervious, they can provide detention at a lower rate.
correct.
But you're not allowed to increase above existing.
Right.
So,
Or else you
you're
don't
not
get the
taking advantage
exception,
of
from
it,
what I
yeah.
understand, yeah.
Otherwise, it doesn't qualify. So it behooves them to try to meet existing, because they're only providing about 50% probably what they normally would if it was a new development that didn't meet this program.
Gotcha.
So that's the gist of it. It sounds like a small thing, but those are the limits. So it's kind of, it's supposed to, you know,
Encourage
encourage
somebody to-
redevelopment.
Yeah.
So you're not taking up your land for an open water detention basin or, you know, they can take up spaces, so. That's the reason for that. I'll also point out that there were 3 points of ingress and egress off 133rd. They're actually gonna close one.
Correct, yes, thank you for pointing that out.
And
There
then-
was an added one to the east, all the way to the east, the west side of the east parcel. So there was the east one for the drive, and then there was one on the west for the dine and parking area. Then there was an additional one that would be dedicated to the drive, but that seemed a little complicated and confusing, so we eliminated the westernmost ingress and egress point going out and in from 133rd Avenue.
How many franchises do you have?
6,
6?
this will be lucky number 7.
7, 11.
And then if I can somehow bend the arm of the town of Munster, we'll see if we can go into Munster, but that's a pretty high challenge at this point, so we'll see.
And how's your dad doing?
He's out in California, so I think he's doing pretty well. He's in Palm Desert right now, enjoying some time. He likes to go out there in the spring, in the early spring months, so he'll come back at the end of April. We'll go see him for spring break here in a few weeks. Thank you for asking, I appreciate it.
I mean, overall, from an engineering standpoint, it's in decent shape. I mean, kind of think they mapped out this week, and
I know.
you turn something around the day.
And there's a lot of things here that I just can't answer, because I don't have the expertise in that.
Yeah, a lot of them aren't major. There's only so many ways you can engineer this site,
Mhm.
where you're gonna, you know, they have an existing outfall into the system that's in Summer Winds. They're connecting into the new Summer Winds, kind of alleyway road that was redone, so that'll give us some nice little circulation through here as well.
What's the issue with the sign, just if you can give me a rough idea? You said you're gonna have to go to the franchise is that because of the zoning ordinance and?
No, over the last couple of years, we've been replacing signs in the right of way. You've probably seen them all around, the new, kind of black powder coated decorative posts.
Okay.
So over the last couple of years, any kind of
So
signage
it's the
in the
type
right
of
of
sign
way.
that you're gonna have an issue with?
It's not, I think it's strictly the color. I think that the aesthetics would fit in, but I think it's more so the color, the pylon color itself, and then the surround around the sign. Not like the main monument / pylon sign, but any directional sign, from what I understand, that's placed in the right of way.
That's really something that Public Works has been switching out and retrofitting over the last probably 3 or 4 years at this point. So it's kind of a request from them that anything like these needs it. They don't want to just see the normal U channels or, you know, squared stainless steel. They want it to be decorative.
Kind of like our stop signs and our
Exactly.
street signs, have those black, posts.
Yep.
Yeah, if you want an example of what the directional signage would look like, the St. John location would have, that one also has an exit only coming out on the north side of that parcel. So you'll see signs there that would be that would indicate what Culvers would require at this site for an exit-only sign or an entrance or drive-through sign, that sort of thing.
I see, I'll take a look at that.
Yep.
John,
Yes.
is there enough
Which
time?
one, me?
Well, I can go around the room, I guess.
All right.
Sorry about that. Council,
Not tonight.
maybe. Is there enough time, I mean, you talk about being on our agenda for a public hearing in 2 weeks from tonight. Can I hear the engineers out until the end of the week, which shrinks the, I'm just asking from a practical perspective.
I mean, we will not get another review done, obviously. I mean, because our filing deadline to get stuff on the agenda is when it's going to be coming in, so we're obviously not gonna have time to look at it.
Correct.
I mean, as important as this project is for both the town and you, doing it right, making sure it is right, is part of the deal.
Yeah, and my only response to that is, because we've been through it so many times, I'm pretty confident that we can get it together and submit it before the deadline, with enough time to get notices out, et cetera, right? I guess the way that I would approach that is, I would like to be put on the agenda, but if we need to bump it, so we can have an additional review, then I'm fine agreeing to a deferment from that hearing into the next month, so we can have another study session and talk about it.
Continuation?
I would rather be a deferral, because I don't wanna come in and have a public hearing and then at the end defer and everybody be confused. So I'd rather have those internal communications ongoing, and if we're pretty certain that it's not going to be ready or right for a decision by this body, then I would just rather defer without having to come in and go through that process and then at the end say, well, I don't know, right? So, I think that would be the best way to handle it. We're still gonna go through with the BZA because we're gonna need those variances regardless. So I think if we can get that, done and accomplished this month, at least that's one thing, that's one box that can be checked. But I think that would be a good way to handle it, to see what we can get to see where we can get before the hearing, and if it's clear from this body and through our communications with staff, that's likely not gonna be ready, then I would just defer it to the next month, if that's okay.
That's a fair approach.
So, just real quick, site plans don't go through public hearings here in Cedar Lake, they're just on the public agenda for consideration, so there's no opening of public hearing for remonstrance. You will have the public hearing next week at the BZA though.
Correct, yep. Thank you for that clarification.
And those are developmental variances, right?
Yes, there's no variance of use with this one.
There's not. None that I'm aware of, at least.
None that I found.
Go look for one.
I'd rather not. If there are any other questions from the commission, council, staff, I'm more than happy to answer those now. Otherwise, I'll circle the wagons with Mr. Torringa when he's back in town and make sure that we get back to you all with what we need.
We're gonna need BZA approvals before we approve here.
Yep, I agree with
That's
that.
next week.
Well, you can act contingent.
Yeah, you can always put,
Possibly, I don't like contingencies.
yeah, you can approve decisions upon,
All
but
married, though.
Well, we'll see what happens.
Better bring John some onion rings.
yeah, also bring a chocolate custard, he can dip his onion rings in the custard.
Something with a little whiskey. Perfect. All right, if there's nothing else.
All right, thank you all again for your time, I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm really looking forward to getting this off the ground, so, thank you.
Hey, John, I thought that was Yaki Knock.
Yaki Doc, yeah.
That's a long story.
I'm sure it is. It's a good one, though. I'm sure it is. But it's not the time, so we'll have to come in,
Public comment?
yeah. All right, number 4, Montessori Woods North Concept Plan. Owner Frank Warren, New Century Development, 2036 West 81st Avenue, Site B, Maryville, Suite B, at Maryville, Indiana. Petitioner Chip Cruzmark? Okay. Thank you. Cruzmark. Okay. Old Top Homes, 8051 Wicker Avenue, St. John. vicinity 9727 West 138th Avenue, Cedar Lake.
I sit down here instead of up
Well,
there.
petitioner is requesting a concept plan to reinstate the preliminary plat for the Monastery Woods subdivision.
Thank you.
Chip, you're up.
Thank you, sir. Chip Cruzmark, Old Hoff Homes, 8051 Wicker Avenue, St. John. Thank you for allowing me to be here tonight at the work session. The property we're talking about tonight is 32 acres of land on the north side of 129th, just west of Parish, known as Monastery Woods. Very brief history is that the property was planted back in 2006, developed with the recession, things kind of went to heck. Went back to bank ownership, and Mr. Moore purchased the property in 2013. And then he obviously built homes in that development with the intent of further developing the rest of the site. We spoke with Mr. Moore probably in November with an interest in buying the property. And I think he's at a point in his life where he's ready to kind of let some things go, and he should. God bless him, he's a great guy. So we discussed this back in November. We said we would be very interested if we could just follow through with what was already platted. Obviously, there was a preliminary plat that's expired. It was quite old, and we would ultimately like to reinstate that preliminary plat and just follow through the way it was. In our conversation with Mr. Moran, he said that, yes, that's what he was going to do, and that he had been before you, I think in October, to express concerns about further developing this property. And he said that was his opinion from that meeting. So I'm here tonight to kind of get your feedback or ideas to make sure that we're all on the same page. Our intent, and if it were your intent as well, would be to reinstate this preliminary plat to develop this as it was originally laid out in 2006, really not make any changes to the plan other than update some of the engineering. I know we've had a previous discussion with Mr. Oliphant about pavement thickness and storm drains and some things of those natures.
Is there anything in the ground there now? I can't remember.
No, it's, the ground has been cut, more or less, but there's nothing in the ground past the pavement that we've been able to find.
No water lines, no sewer lines,
No. So it would all be new. You know, the detention's in place. The center property in between is owned by the homeowners association. We work with them as we move this forward.
Who is the homeowners association? Now, I thought it was,
Monastery Woods Homeowners Association?
yeah, it's the citizens?
Yes, sir.
Okay, it is.
As I understand, yes, sir.
Because I had heard
That's how it's
before there was a problem with
That's
that.
the south side, it's separate.
Oh, the south side?
The north side of 129th is separate HOA than the south side.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there are. There's a couple on the south side.
Dave, do you remember what the center property was set aside for, or do you know what it was set aside for?
It's a ravine, basically. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's all
Yeah,
drained.
the south part of it's an actual pond. Actually, I drove by again tonight, it's beautiful, the sun setting. But it's a pond and it goes into a ravine and it's pretty much unbuildable.
Okay, I didn't.
That's the space in between the two orange.
Yes, sir. Yep,
You probably lost
exactly.
golf balls in there, didn't you?
A lot of golf balls of mine are in there.
There you go. So the two, of the small map I showed you, it's the two orange parcels in total, it's about 32 acres, about 90 lots. And what we would do, in speaking with Frank, there was a request by the city, when he talked about this, to start with the east side off of Cary, because I understand there's somebody off to the east that has some sewer issues or concerns, and there was a request made that when Frank developed this, if a utility easement would be placed down some of the lot lines, so that a utility feed could be made to that property owner to the east. And Frank agreed to that, and we said we would continue to honor that request. So our intent would probably start with the east side of the project on Cary, and then once that's developed and built out, move over to the west side off of Hess. But that, in a nutshell, that's kind of our intent, is to go ahead and just finish this project off. We would love to be able to start it this summer and get it moving right away, but I'm here to listen to any comments or questions you may have before we start going through the process of filing for a preliminary plat, getting our engineering in place, and then coming in for final plat approval.
Ted, how you feel about this? It's close to your house. You
Yeah,
wanna leave
yeah.
it the same or make it less or increase the density? Maybe you wanna increase the density.
Yeah, this was something, Greg, that, this back half was the nicer half. If you look at these lots down low,
It looks like it
on
played
the
out nice.
south of here, all
Yeah,
these
yeah.
folks had to come in for a variance for a deck, come in for a variance for a pool, come in for everything. It was out of control. At least this north side is proper size lots. You know what I mean? They can build a single-family home and they don't have to come get a permit, BZA variance for every single thing they do in the backyard. There's not even room for a shed in these folks' backyards. If they have a deck, they almost can't put a pool in, it hits the property line. So, and also this subdivision that's on the south end here did not have rear yard drains, and now our new ordinance changed where there are requirements for backyard. Remember all the
Yeah.
nightmares we had years ago?
Yeah.
People's sheds, and then they built berms and vegetable gardens, and they created pools for the neighbor. So now this new half, I think, would have to qualify, correct, Doug?
Yep.
So, even further adding to, it's good that the lots are a little bit bigger than what you see down below.
There's no opposition to the updating the rear yard and doing the rear yard drainage?
Not at all,
And there's
no.
no pipe in the ground, there's no...
No, nothing there. Our only intent was, when we file for this, we'll update whatever engineering, but we wanted to keep the lot count and the lot dimensions as it were, so we don't have to re-engineer the whole site. This was all done by V3 years ago. We've been in touch with them. They're ready to go and start working with Don to figure out what updates they need to make. We'd like to get going on this as soon as we possibly could.
You know, there is some empty land, at the end of lot 123 that's existent. There's empty land to the east, 26 or 30-some acres. And I just wonder if we shouldn't stub a road for the future or not. Because that would go out to parish if the said property owner ever wanted to develop, but
I don't think I know anything about that property. I don't know if I've ever
Okay.
looked at it. The ownership or the zoning or,
it's a guy named McKernan. He lives in Lansing.
oh, okay, and it's just vacant?
It's all vacant woods. There's 2 parcels. But I'm just wondering, you know, from a interconnection, if it made sense to stub something.
We'd be happy to look into that.
Okay.
Is that landlocked?
No.
It's right off,
Parish.
if that's parish, yeah, that's the lot, and then he owns the one right south of it.
Yeah.
All 3 of those, 4 of them.
Oh.
That used to be McLaughlin's property, and then McKernan ended up with it.
Froggy?
Yep,
The guy that collected cans?
yep,
Yeah, he did.
yep. His whole life. So, just food for thought, you know, just, so you'd be open to it if.
Yeah, we would.
We're just trying to plan for the future rather than pigeonhole. And if I lived in that north end of that subdivision, if in the future there was something that I could escape on Parish quicker, that would make me happy if I lived there.
Well, and as you look at it, you do have 2 entry exits, but it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to have
Right.
something obvious there.
Yeah. And that's at the property line of the town limits, the north end. I don't know if you know that or not.
No, I did not.
Yeah, those lots on the very north side of that subdivision butt up to our
Dutchess County.
town limits. In fact, the police officer that died today lives right there, on that little stubby road that comes up to
Just
your
to the north?
property. Or lived.
Is there any problem with renewing the old, plat?
No,
No?
that's absolutely discretionary, and the planning commission, upon a proper presentation and satisfaction of the technical engineering, that's up to you.
So it's all pretty much in line as it is, as it was approved back in
That's what it
2006,
sounds like.
whatever.
Well, we need to look at all the
What?
ordinances. I mean,
Well,
all of our
yeah.
ordinances have been updated or
Yeah.
changed entirely.
Of course, engineering and the ordinances and that, but I mean,
Right.
as far as the plat layout and everything, the lot sizes and what have you, the streets were good, they just all have to be updated to current ordinances
Current
and.
technical standards.
Right.
Like I said, the only thing that we would want to keep the same is we want to keep the layout, the dimensions, the lot sizes the same, so we don't have to re-engineer and just do it all, and start from complete scratch, because we'd like to get this going this year.
These are bigger lots, huh, John?
They look like it, Greg, yeah, they look like it to me.
I remember back then, Harkivist and I, Pretty.
Oh, I remember too.
Yeah.
Sometimes
and
I
the
wish,
backside was a little bit,
sometimes I wish the 2009 John was back instead of,
no, nothing like that, Greg. 2 weeks ago, those multifamily units, I was just trying to gentrify that area. That was my whole intent of saying, hey, that's a good idea there.
Chip, what was the minimum, lot width on these?
I think they're 80.
80, okay.
80, what's the depth?
I think the smallest are the same as what's to the south, which is 117 feet. Make sure that's right.
Okay, so look that size.
those are decent.
Yeah, 117. Right.
Yeah.
But then, the nice thing is that the way it did lay out, there are a lot that are much bigger than that, so it's a nice variety there.
Any other questions? Discussion? No. What's your
We're
next
good. We'll get working with Don and with Chris and Ashley and get the ball rolling on the preliminary plat, and I can start talking to B3, and they can interface with Don and figure out some of the technicals that we need to get resolved. So, pretty good.
Okay.
Thank you for your help and guidance, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
You bet.
Good luck.
Thank you, Brett.
Number 5, Obadiah Taylor, vacation of subdivision, owner petitioner Michael and Nancy Shander, 3452 Sally Drive, Stager, Illinois. Enterprise LLC, 7329 McConnell Avenue, Lowell, Indiana, vicinity of 13221 Colfax Street, 13131 Colfax Street, 13137 Colfax Street, and 13177 Colfax Street, Cedar Lake. Petitioner is requesting vacating of the Obadiah Taylor subdivision.
Good evening.
Hi.
I submitted these plats when I filed our
Can you state your name?
petition. I'm Eric Neff, I'm the attorney for the Shanders in this matter.
Okay, thank you.
And they have joined with Dax Enterprises LLC to file a petition to vacate the subdivision that we're talking about pursuant to Indiana Code Section 367310 and in accordance with your forms. Essentially what's happened in this particular matter is my clients used their life savings, $87,000 to purchase what's known as lots 2, 3, and 4. And do you have a plat in front of you? Okay. And they intended to build a house there. They did not know, they're not developers, they both work, and when they found out that they couldn't build their house without putting in the roads and all of the requirements for the subdivision, they can't afford to do it. So they went to Bax, who's in that same subdivision, and they agreed to sign this petition as well. So they're asking for some relief to vacate this subdivision so that they have the ability to make improvements and build their house there. They won't be able to do it otherwise.
Who's Bats? The guy across the street with all those little lots?
No.
Lot 1.
Lot 1.
Oh,
That's basically, I think, a relative of the person, the Taylors, who laid out the subdivision in 2017.
I thought we gave them a solution. I thought the solution was they put their driveway at the beginning of Lot 2, and they have an address, and so they were planning on making lots 2, 3, and 4, I think all one subdivision, all one lot, weren't they?
One lot, yeah, John.
And so we said, well, that's fine, you have a road that comes up to your first lot. Put your driveway in right there.
That must not have got completed because it's still showing as,
No, they never did the combining of those 3 lots, but
That's what,
that's what they wanted they wanted a solution, and I thought we handed them a solution that was amicable.
okay.
Because they can't vacate that road without owning the other side of the street.
I understand that, but they can vacate the subdivision.
If they vacate the subdivision, Dave, does it go back to a meets and bounds parcel?
It would.
Well, that's not buildable either.
So I thought they were gonna combine those 3 lots to make it 1 lot subdivision, and they were done.
You still have waivers though, because the entire subdivision would still front on it.
They need a one-lot subdivision
Okay.
Building permit.
for a building permit, correct?
Correct.
And then the road could be handled with a private drive, couldn't it?
Good.
But it's a public road with other parcels on the other side of the road,
the other
on the west side.
But I thought, John,
It couldn't be private.
but I thought John is correct, because they were going to start, I think that first lot, which is lot 2, part of that road, Colfax, extends into lot 2, extends lot 2 a bit.
Mr. Neff, what
Where
are
they could tie into that road with their driveway, and that would solve their problem, but I thought we had discussed all that.
Yeah.
what do they own, lots 2?
They own about 2, 3, and 4,
Okay.
okay?
Is there any road at all in front of lot 2?
Yes, as I understand it, that road ends about halfway, a little over halfway, correct?
road utilities all the way to the
Well, there's been situations in the past that there was some frontage, and the driveway could come off of that some frontage.
We
Then-
have been requiring that if the road is not extended all the way to the end of their lot, and they go to build a new home, that they are required to follow the subdivision control ordinance and extend the utilities, the road, what have you, to the end of their buildable lots, which in their case would be lot 4.
Well, they have to go all the way to the end of the...
That's part of what another petitioner has been going through, is they're looking at getting full width to Sherman, but if they don't, they have to extend Sherman all the way to the end, because that is what has been being required of anybody who's
Well,
been building on.
that makes
places
sense if they're gonna
unapproved.
try to build 3 houses, and the 1 house is at the end. But if they made all 3 of those lots a 1 lot subdivision, and they elect to put a nice little drive and have their house face Lemon Lake, that's their prerogative.
But the lots on the other side are developable.
When that
And-
person decides to do something, now he's stuck with it. 'Cause-
Yeah, but
Right? I
but
mean,
safety territory, you're pushing it on somebody else.
right.
Why is that somebody else's burden?
Why should the first person have to do the whole road?
They're planning a subdivision, and that meets our requirements. I mean, there is a road.
You know where
past
I'm
lot
going
one.
next, right?
Yeah.
You're reading my mind, aren't you?
No, I think I know what you're saying too, Greg.
I mean,
Well, I'm saying if it was mine, this is what I would do. I'd leave it at 3 lots right now. I'd build my house on lot 2 where there's frontage. And
The road in front of lot,
for my yard.
the road in front of lot 2
We were
does
told
not
we couldn't
meet.
do that.
Yeah, you told
Council.
us we couldn't do that,
We were
Who?
told,
multiple times.
we were told.
Why couldn't they do that? There's frontage in front of lot 2.
Because of the subdivision control ordinance standard that Ashley just described.
That's a front on an improved roadway. That's not an improved roadway. There's a semblance of a road there, but it doesn't meet any kind of our code.
But I don't think
That's a
that's their
driveway.
problem. And I thought we all hashed this out, and they were gonna make lot 2 the drive entrance, and they were gonna build their house wherever they want on lot 2, 3, or 4, because they're gonna make that a 1 lot subdivision.
We changed the zoning code to basically take away basically gave us the wiggle room to vary against the width of a road, because a lot of our right-of-ways are tiny. Can't fit a full roadway width, but we never varied against the actual construction of the road. Construction road, as far as thickness, curb and gutter, all that, is still required.
Even if their driveway's at the very edge where there's already an old junky road?
It's still fronting on an improved roadway.
But if they only make their driveway 25 foot,
It's full, you have to improve your entire front.
unless they go through a BZA process and you got
Unless you, for engineering waivers, subdivision waivers, however you want to term it.
So one lot subdivision won't fix this, private drive won't fix this.
to go back to Mr. Foreman's point, they were in front of their contractor was in front of the Plan Commission last April. And the direction provided to them at that time had been to go for a 1 lot subdivision, get a list together of all the waivers that they would be requesting from engineering, and get back in front of the Plan Commission to request the waivers from there. There had also been the talking about, extending it to where they were building and then putting language on the plat that if they ever sold, whoever purchased in the future would have to extend. There had been discussion about all that. Additionally, if there's a vacation, there's two owners. You're vacating it, you now have a meets and bounds, now you have three owners for one meets and bounds lot that you're now going to have to then re-subdivide, and then you're going to lose all the waivers that were given in October of 2016 for sidewalk, curb and gutter, one access point, road width, right-of-way width, existing roadway, not to town standard thickness, lot frontage trees, stormwater detention, rear yard drainage. They're gonna have to either request all that again, and you're gonna have to grant it all again, which you guys have not been very lenient on granting sidewalk and curb and gutter. So we're gonna vacate a subdivision that's been granted all these waivers, that they're then gonna have to go
If it
through
goes
the
back to
process
meets and
again.
bounds, though, it goes back to a pre-platted subdivision,
It goes back to
correct?
the pre-platted subdivision, and now you have three owners on one big lot, and I don't know how you'd even determine who owns what part of that lot.
Well, that'd be done with a survey.
It'd be a meets and bound of one large parcel, though. It goes back to the original, how the plat was.
Well, when it was
Unfortunately-
platted, did they get a surety to put in the roads? I mean, that's typically what's done.
That was probably platted
That's
before we were
typically
in
what's
town.
done, is when somebody lays out you get a
Of
bond,
course.
so that you can put in the roads when the developer defaults.
In a
People are not developers.
In a planned town, that's how it works. This town was a town before it was a real town, right? Cedar Lake was all unincorporated Lake County. And we weren't incorporated until 1967, so that road precedes 1967. So we have all these goat paths and cow paths in town that have no proper widths, no proper drains, no proper bases, and we've been spending millions and millions of bonding to try to make subdivisions right. But in this case, I don't think only big developers should build a house in our town. I think these folks should be able to improve to their driveway, and if their driveway meanders all the way to the end of lot 4,
That
that's their
subdivision is
prerogative.
what screwed this up. Because in my view, spitballing here, you got a good attorney over there at the end of the table, no offense to you, I'm sure you are too.
I know, Dave.
The meets and bounds lot, if the legal was corrected on it, and it had frontage in front of it in a pre-platted subdivision, would be buildable, am I mistaken?
It would be, you can divide anything really, and you can retract it all back to before. The primary reason for the subdivision had to do with creating a lot of record. It had to do with making certain we were progressing Cedar Lake, while at the same time, half a dozen variances and waivers, and, I mean, everything you just said, John, happened.
Yep.
To induce, incent, assist, yield, these folks in being able to build a home. Because we all know Colfax Street, every one of us.
Yep.
And it is what you said it is. So this was the accommodation. Take our code and not really use it, make a lot of record out of this so we can have uniformity with our growing community, our emerging community, and let's see a house get built. Or two. And I know I've had discussions with one or more of you about whatever happened to the subdivision on Colfax Street.
No, I know, I didn't know what happened to it, now I do.
Yeah, Tom came in and was gonna do just that, we said, you need to make a subdivision, so he did the change in
Right.
4 years ago, probably.
2017.
2016.
Oh, yeah, so, yeah, 6, yeah,
It was recorded in 17.
okay. Yeah, it wasn't that many years
So
ago.
what's the solution? It goes back to we vacate, it goes back to a meets and bounds parcel, and they start over with getting a lot of record recorded on that large parcel, and build one house with the frontage that's there in the pre-platted subdivision,
Well,
is that possible?
They already have that. I mean, they have a platted subdivision, just divided into 4 lots. It could be a replat, and I've talked with your staff about this. It could be a replat into one lot. By simple.
It's gonna have to be 2.
I'm sorry?
It would have to be two.
Oh,
minimum.
okay, for two houses, that's
Yeah.
right.
Because there's one existing already.
Okay, so it would add a house in there.
2 through 4
I got you.
combined.
Yeah.
So there'd be a second house, but they'd be lots of record. And everybody knows.
So essentially, what we'd be talking about doing is taking lots 1 and 2, and then lot 2 would consist of replatting lots 3 and 4.
Sounds like.
Combined.
So it'd be lot 1 as it is, and then lot 2 would become lots 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could have sworn at this board a year or so ago, we said, that's the plan, that's the direction you guys should do, and actually, this, I think, was before you joined us.
Christina was the planning director when this was presented in front of you for the concept plan. I was still the recording secretary at the time. But yeah, I pulled the excerpt from that meeting date, and it had been discussed that just take lots 2, 3, and 4.
Yep.
Replat them as a one-lot subdivision, put in language that it can't ever be pre-subdivided,
Right.
potentially look at putting in language for, only allowing them to extend everything so far, but if they ever sold in the future, that whoever purchased in the future would have to go. But the final direction was for them to get together with their engineer, get a one-lot subdivision together, get all the waivers together that they're gonna be requesting, and then come back
Right.
for that one-lot subdivision. And then this came about a couple weeks ago, and we said, you're better off doing a one-lot sub, re-subdividing.
Right.
And they would like to proceed with this, the vacation of subdivision, which would then require a new subdivision.
Right. So I think that maybe they asked for something they weren't clear on, is my guess.
Well, going back to a meets and bounds parcel makes it even hard to market, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So you don't wanna do that.
I can't do anything with it now.
Yeah. This is a great lot, these folks wanna build a house, I think we are a commission. I don't wanna be the people that cater to these big developers, I wanna help the little guy out. And I don't think in this instance,
You'll never
It
get
makes
me
any
to argue
sense,
with you
Greg.
about that.
it makes no sense in this instance to make these folks do anything with the road up to where the drive begins.
Well,
That's only fair.
So does it have to be vacated, go back to a meets and bounds, and then a one?
Not in my opinion.
No.
What,
Replat this thing.
Replat.
Pre-platted.
I would agree with Dave on that.
well, can you guys work together and get something to present?
You know,
I'm gonna have to meet with my clients, you know,
Sure.
to discuss what we're talking about here, because they try to get their money back from the guy who sold it to them, unable to do that because of time, basically. So, and they're not willing to do that, so they're kind of stuck. So we gotta come up with a solution. David mentioned to me before about a one-lot subdivision. I think Ashley's correct, it's 2 lots, because we have the one.
They could just combine 2, 3, and 4 into one lot and do it that way too, instead of having to do a two-lot sub.
Replatting the original into 2 lots versus 4.
Right, okay.
change a couple lot lines.
Yep.
Yeah, because the statute that we filed under on the vacation says you can vacate part or all of it, so I think we can reconfigure that and comply with the statute.
That's the right thing to do. You don't wanna take it back to a meets and bounds though.
So what does that do to the road then, if they make that a one-lot subdivision? How far in does the road have to go?
What road?
The road's already there.
You're going to have
It's
to.
the same road that every other house is served on in that street.
That's the same road.
Well,
Right now, you're saying that they have to take the road to the end of their property.
I didn't say that. That's what our,
That's our subdivision control ordinance.
ordinance says that.
All right, my question is, how far do they have to take the road right now?
Well, I thought we talked about that, and I thought the minutes reflected only a part of the way.
Whatever's there.
does a replat re-trigger them having to ask for all these waivers and variances again?
The answer is
Probably,
yes,
right?
in part, they need to refer to them, and, the petition would need to be made based upon those.
So we'll have to hash out those items, because I feel like what we're discussing now is different than what the subdivision is required right now.
Well, it's part of the subdivision control ordinance, right?
It's still part of that, but I think the way any member can correct me, but it sounds like they want to limit, you know, the requirement to extend the road either halfway or full way. It sounds like that needs to be rehashed out at some point.
Well, again, I.
Is there a piece of a road in front of this property right now, sir?
The road goes all the way into, over two-thirds into the left end of my second lot.
And we have a turnaround
The house
in our
is right
second
across
lot.
the street from me, our driveway where I wanna put it, they would have to drive past my driveway to pull into their driveway. The road, I don't understand, there's no road, there is a road.
The issue
out there.
with the road is if it was going to be 3 lots, that's when the
It was never gonna be 3 lots.
Never wanted
So
to
that was
build
the
on
whole
that.
problem.
You wanna talk, come up to the podium, please. Give us your names.
My name is Mike Shaner, my wife Nancy.
Okay.
So we came here originally to do this, and, kind of the ball got dropped because no bond was ever collected on this by Tom Taylor. So we bought this with our life savings, not knowing this had to be done. You telling us that we had to do all this because a bond wasn't collected. And we're being held responsible now.
There's the road
And we just wanna,
we just wanna
Right.
build a house on the first
we
lot.
were told we could build a house on that lot too by the guy that sold us the property because we had roads, sewers, electrical,
We have all the
gas.
utilities, everything there, and now
We
we come
came here
here.
and that was not the case.
It makes,
Sewers, lights,
It makes sense to us,
sidewalks, but
Makes sense
there's
to me.
nothing.
and because we're the builders, but that's not what happened here.
And we're trying to figure it out right now.
Right, and
Okay,
we're still being held
we understand your-
responsible.
We understand your predicament, and
Yeah.
we're familiar with this piece of property.
We're being held to waivers, I mean, things, we're gonna have to dish out, I mean, but we've already put in, sorry to, you know, we're at $100,000 into this,
We haven't even
and counting.
dug a hole yet.
And we just wanna try and be able to do something with this property that's not gonna put us out of, you know, out of commission, I guess.
And we want you to do something with it also. We're just trying to figure out what is best, the best way to go about doing this.
I think the question was, where does that road end?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, if you look on the drawing, there's lot 2, and then there's what, across the street, lot 23 or 24?
Goes all the way to
What's the last, like
24.
23, 24?
So it goes to 24
Correct.
on the other side?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
That's where the
So
road
that's a
is.
little more than halfway, it looks like to me. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Correct.
All right.
Is that the town standard?
That's the caveat.
But here's my thing, there's like 7 other houses
In a
on
three-platted
this road.
subdivision.
Do they have to participate in?
Where are those 7 other houses?
So,
On the other side of the
okay,
street.
so, right now.
Roughly one lot.
Okay, so no, so next to our lot, lot 1 is one home,
Okay,
okay? In front of lot 1, there is another home,
Where it says this
where
part
it
is
says not included,
okay.
there's another home. Across the street, there's 5 other homes. So, where it says 1 through 4, there's a home. Where it
Okay.
says 5 through 10, there's a home.
There's a home there.
11 through 16, there's a home. 17 through like 22, there's a home.
Okay.
There's these roads.
So there's 5 homes in there?
I think.
But there's
if I-
no
That's
homes
fine, that's
past the end of the road.
So just the guy across the
On
street
your
from us
street
and then
up
our second
You
lot.
can see,
So it goes right up, they almost go to the end
the
of the road.
road, the
Yeah.
road comes all the way to.
Yeah,
This-
so
this
there's
is
5
the
other
turnaround.
I
lots.
see.
This
So
road comes
why
all
are
the way
we
here.
responsible for the improvements of the whole road?
The rest of the road.
That's what we're saying, that's the whole thing. Again, if this was put into place and Tom Taylor was doing this and did this with you guys in 17, and you guys put this in place with him to have to do these improvements, why was a bond not collected on this?
We should have
So
never
when
been
he
able to buy
went
this
to
property.
sell it, this would have been levied against the property that we were purchasing.
He should have never been able to sell us
But
this
that was
property.
never
like I said.
done. And now we're being held responsible for this.
I don't know anything about any of that.
We don't either, that's the problem, but we're the owners of this.
Yes, I understand. I
So
understand.
who's the fault lie on?
Well, it's not about fault,
Well, not
we're
even
trying
fault,
to
my
get
mistake.
we're trying to get to solution.
We wanna get
Yeah,
the
we're
solution,
trying to
we
get a
get,
solution.
there's obviously a ball
Yeah.
has been dropped.
Yeah.
But we need to,
I think,
Right now, you own property that we're trying to get you a house built on, or you're trying to get a house built on. We're trying to figure out what you have to do with a road or that property so you can get that house built.
Yeah,
Okay, now what happened in the past with Mr. Taylor and what have
Right.
you is
It was unfortunate.
Correct,
Right,
and I
yes.
just wanna be able to move
So-
forward without having to spend another $400,000.
we understand,
We're
we're trying to work that out.
yes.
Right,
okay?
yeah.
So now my question is, that road goes halfway up lot two, and lot two is where you wanna build the house?
That's where we were
Correct.
looking to build the home. It has
So-
road, sewer, water, electric.
It should be buildable, in my view, if it has frontage in front of it.
If you
Do
waive
they have to
the
extend that
requirements-
road to the end of lot two?
Legally, yes, unless you waive the requirement. If you waive the requirement, which is within your jurisdiction, they don't need to go to the end of the property.
And
Just the
you
way it is
leave-
now, they can build a home, or
I'm sorry?
put a driveway in and build their home, where the road ends right
They
now.
could, making certain, of course, we don't cut anybody else off or don't preclude some,
Right, and they can leave everything the way it is, they just have to request a waiver from the planning commission for that?
with all the detail that will explain this, yes.
All right, so we combine lots 2, 3, and 4, and then get the waivers from the zoning code, or their subdivision control ordinance about the road
Yeah,
and the extension.
And Eric, do you have the record, I mean, do you have the minutes of the meetings?
No, I do not.
Yeah, you probably need to. That's one meeting, there was public hearings.
There were some, yeah, there was
That
some,
was-
yeah,
Twenty
yeah.
sixteen.
I mean, Ashton read off the waivers that were part of the original petition.
Yeah,
It's going to be all of those and more.
Thank you, by the way. Thank you.
So,
Right, so it's a lot
Can
of
you
waivers.
replat with those
What's the
waivers
problem?
included?
But that's not,
So there's a price per waiver.
that's not an insurmountable problem.
It sounded like we were saying no.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have an idea?
Yep.
Okay, okay. We want to make it work for you folks.
I've been hearing this for.
I know.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
You're still going to be on the agenda for the ordinance, or
We're gonna go, can we just go to another workshop session next month?
this is this scheduled for public hearing already?
Nothing has been sent yet.
Okay, then,
It's gonna have to be, because we didn't make it.
I will have you on
You have to revise
It's
that.
so simple.
You have to revise that.
They know what you got, they know what you.
Yeah, it sounds like they got a good idea.
Okay, ordinance, number 6, ordinance 1452, flood plan management regulation amendatory ordinance. Up for discussion,
Chris?
Don, if you want to go over the.
Sure. This is an update to your current floodplain ordinance, which was adopted in, I believe, 2016. DNR has recommended certain changes for really primarily coastal communities, so your communities up along the lake. So Hammond, Gary, unincorporated, I'm missing one, Lake Station. That's Porter, huh? White, there you go. So we kind of took the tact, updated anyways. There's a bunch of different definitions that were removed, some were added. I mean, we're 7 years since our last kind of change, so there aren't any huge items that were added that are of to note. It's just something we need to amend and adopt eventually.
So this is something we'll see at the next meeting? Or just give to the council?
We got public notice out in time, I think. Do we advertise for it?
It has not been noticed yet,
Okay.
and I don't know if you're gonna address or review in the next couple of weeks the subdivision control ordinance, but my recommendation is that that be advertised first and acted upon, and then right behind it, in companion fashion, the floodplain regulations. And the reason for that is because the floodplain regs are referenced within the body of the subdivision ordinance. That ordinance is a technical ordinance, by the way, and Don did the heavy lifting on it for the technical details and modernization. I highly suspect a little discussion here, once you read it, review it, you'll probably ask Don some questions. We could easily do the subdivision, or the public hearing on both of those together.
Both Don and I, and probably at least one or two other people, need to meet to go over a couple factors that need to be determined yet, but largely done.
Okay.
So, and even a combination of that, an attachment to the subdivision ordinance would be the technical standards manual. That's also being updated.
That's referenced in the body
Yeah.
of it, you and I.
And that's gonna be a little more heavy lift with a lot of engineering jargon. Neil's gonna have to look at his section where we have a draft of the new details done, just going through our in-house review process, so that's probably even a bigger heavy lift, so that's still progressing.
Okay. Okay, any other questions?
No, sir.
That was an easy one. Update items, building regulations and fee amendment.
Reevaluating the building fee proposal, given some considerations that the town council, has been tossing around with a road impact fee. So it'll still being worked on, being revised.
Okay. Planetary third quarter moratorium.
I'm still working on it, as you can imagine, but I will have for you text when you, come back here in a couple weeks.
Okay.
I want you to each have what the corridor looks like, this, drawing from Neil, I think Neil, where did you guys do this?
Neil did.
So you know, have in hand.
How does this affect, Culver's restaurant?
It won't.
Neil did this?
This
All by
needs to be
himself?
done before
No.
they can pull building permits.
This has to be done before.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mine's upside down.
Mine was, I turned it over.
Oh, this was.
It turns.
I got help.
So we're in the text and drafting.
He's a sewer engineer, he's not used to title block being
He's
on the
Purdue
bottom right
engineer.
corner.
He's a Purdue engineer.
Well, how soon are we gonna have this done? Seriously, we really need to get it done. I'm tired of answering questions.
I'll have you draft text in 2 weeks.
And we can approve it? Do we need to approve it, improve it, approve it?
We need to hold a public hearing on it,
We
so
need a public hearing.
And then we pass it to the
we're
council.
looking at
right?
April then.
The zoning map has to match the zoning ordinance.
I'm sorry?
This corridor has to match the zoning ordinance,
It's
doesn't
an
it?
overlay.
This would be an
It's an
overlay.
overlay
It's gonna be an overlay.
Oh,
So
okay,
that's why I
overlay,
gave you
okay,
that,
yeah.
so you can know what you're looking at and know what we're talking about.
Got it.
April 19th. If the proposed draft text that you see in 2 weeks is
Okay,
acceptable
yes.
to the planning commission, then yes, we could hold the public hearing April 19th.
Let's schedule that. If we could. Can I schedule anything?
You're presidente, not of this board, but of another.
Not here.
I'd say go for it, Rick.
We need to schedule it for here?
The public hearing will be held in the planning commission.
For April 19th,
And then you'll make a recommendation to the town
town
council.
council.
And for April 19th, okay, yes.
April 19th here.
So
Sounds good.
another month.
I
That's okay, right, John? Is that right?
Yes, yes,
Okay, okay.
that's perfect. I had my assistant take care of that for me.
No, I have the notices prepared, I can go to the papers tomorrow and advertise it for April 19th. It has to be at least 10 days before the public hearing, published.
Okay, well, somebody just do that, please. Pretty please?
You don't need to beg,
Say pretty.
Rick. We'll get it done.
Okay. April 19th, we got a date.
Yeah, we may have to, if we want to get this done before May, we would probably have to have a
Special meeting of the town council. We can do that.
meeting, because otherwise you have that May event.
Yeah, we
May
can do
that
that.
cancels our council
Oh, we
meeting.
don't even have, oh, we would have to, yes,
Been
absolutely.
told it happens, I've never experienced it.
The election.
Okay. Beacon Point West, Unit 5, performance letter of credit expires May 19th, 2023.
Still working on to contact Schillings on both of those. I don't know if they're gonna rotate or not, depends on how far they'll get with paving by May, which probably means they're gonna probably
Yeah.
extend.
Okay. Hanover Community School Court, performance letter of credit expires May 24th, 2023.
We don't even have an as-built on that yet. I know Public Works staff met out with Hanover this morning, and I know there are issues with water still, so that one most likely will have to extend as well.
Okay. And number 6, Perez, performance letter of credit expires June 14th, 2023.
They'll likely end up extending, they're waiting on building their house a little bit, that's that little.
Yeah, they haven't even started, have they?
No, they're waiting a little bit before turning in any plans. I've already talked to Mr. Perez. He said they'll likely end up extending.
Okay. Okay.
Hey, can I ask one more question? Are you done with the update items now?
Yes.
Before we adjourn, can I ask another question?
Sure.
Something, I see Terry in the back of the room, something just kind of jumped into my head, because you have that unsafe building on the other side of you, right?
I
And then
think,
down the street from you?
that was close by, yeah.
Close
It
by.
didn't connect to me, but,
Did they tear the house down yet?
you know, Greg, I haven't, been back there, I still see the roof, so I believe the structure is still standing.
Okay. I just want to use that for an example, because I want to ask Dave a question. That particular house in the subdivision where he lives, the streets are about the same as this Colfax Street we were just talking about with Obadiah Taylor. And when that house is raised, which it will be, now, is that lot not buildable now because of the street frontage?
Maybe. Is there public access? Is it running at all on a public way?
I don't think there's much there.
Well, I mean, is it on
But-
paper there?
It's on paper over here.
Okay, well,
Well, here's my
that
motto.
means it's legal. It's on paper, it's on a plat, it's described and called out, even if it's unimproved. That's Old Cedar Lake.
Okay.
Improved,
So-
or unimproved, cited unimproved.
What differentiates this Colfax thing from Old Cedar Lake is because of Taylor's subdivision that he did. That makes it not pre-platted anymore, correct?
He brought us into the modern era by coming before us and getting the plat and setting up the buildable lots of record, et cetera.
Because that was one big property that was meets and bounds and it didn't have 3 legal descriptions. Now it does.
That's right, and the other thing is, you all at the council level at the time were studying and evaluating what our responsibilities were as a town in those old areas of Cedar Lake. In fact, we did some projects as a consequence of that, up on Hilltop and places, because that was presented to you as a problem. Those streets like Colfax, and then you go over here on this side of Moore Street, you go up and down that street and into those blocks, and you can see the same or worse. And a lot of, some of them barely are gravel.
Well, up by Bob's neighborhood, Greg, up by all the South Shore subdivision, until we redid those roads, those people bought a lot, built a house, tore it down, built a house. We didn't ask them to fix roads.
No.
So I don't think, I think it's absurd that we ask these folks today, and I get it that it became a new subdivision, but it just doesn't seem fair. Just like that guy that's gonna try to do something with that house over by where Terry's got that
Well,
property.
it absolutely,
They tear it down, they build a new house, that's what we want. We wanna encourage people to build new houses that are on decent lots, that have the ability, I mean.
You know what though, John, sometimes sometimes government in a attempt to eliminate an obstacle
Yeah.
creates
More.
37 obstacles,
As in this example of Colfax.
which is unfortunate.
If I may.
There was a complete accommodation to Tom Taylor in his request to you. There was a lot of discussion about, look what we have on our hands here, look at the situation.
Yes.
How are we gonna deal with this as a town?
Yeah.
Should we be in there paving? We can't afford to pave. Should we be in there improving? We don't have the funds and allocations for it. But we're gonna hold people back, or are we gonna allow them to go? Those were constant items of discussion.
But we as a town, if somebody builds a subdivision on Parish Avenue, they only improve to the center of the road, and they only take care of the decel lane on their side of the road.
We had
So
that on
in my
141st.
motto, with these folks that came in there, had they wanna build 3 houses, they should only have to put a proper road in from the center line to the east
To their side, yeah.
with a curb, and then the storm drain, and then
Those
someday somebody
subdivisions on
buys
Parrish,
that
that
other
road's already
side,
there.
they gotta do that. So I think we need definition and clarity up here, what is needed when, because it's kinda all over the map. You don't need a whole new road. You only need from the center to your side, don't you?
When we had people coming in the old platted county lot,
Yeah.
there was one off of 128th and Hilltop by the building trades refurb. The road landed on lot 36 of his property, but he owned lot 36, 37, and 38. We made him extend the roadway out to 38 because that's what we've been requiring when you build. There's people off of the back north, off of 136, they talk about wanting to build, and when we tell them, well, you're gonna have to extend the roadway to the end of your property or request waivers, that's when nothing's come forward, because that's what's being required. In order to build that house, even in older platted subdivision, you gotta extend the roadway to at least the end of your property.
Both sides of the road or just his side?
Both.
Whole road,
See, I just
the town
disagree with
standard.
that.
Because it can be, okay,
I don't
to
know.
play devil's advocate, it can be a very slippery slope. If you allow this guy, just for an example, to extend only a driveway section to where he wants to park, and let's say the guy on the other side of the road, all the way at the top of the cul-de-sac wants to develop now, what are you gonna do?
Does he just run a driveway all the way up to his and then?
Or do you
We never
tear out the
have a road.
driveway, make him put in a
But then
road
why on
standard?
Centennial did they only have to do a decel lane and curbs on their side of the road? On Parrish?
Because that was an established roadway.
Because of
Yeah, that's a road.
The other side of that street, 141st, is outside the town limits.
Okay, but on, Parrish Avenue, there's other examples in town where we only made them do their side.
And as Chris
Beacon Point East, for
Chris said
example.
that is because the road was already there.
Right.
This road's already
This
there.
road's already there, so we need to have,
Arguably not.
Arguably, I mean, yeah, you can drive on it, you can drive on gravel if you wanted to. Is that a
80%
road
of
or
our
not?
town is
But
like
the
that.
father-daughter that are looking at buying both sides of Sherman, we're
Yeah.
making them vacate and extend Sherman all the way to where they're looking at vacating because it's not there.
It's your prerogative to take whatever tact you wanna go, but just try to consider how this might affect other properties in town
I get it.
that may ask for a very similar thing.
yeah, and that's what Greg is.
I thought that the new ordinance said you could build a house on a private or a public road regardless of the condition.
As long as it's up to current town standards. It's
Which-
gotta meet current town standards, or they've gotta get waivers from the
If
plan
there,
commission.
if there's, the road right away is there, there's a piece of a road there, I know we've done this before. I don't know if this works in that aspect of things, but say they put in a private driveway next to the road off of Colfax, that just goes in a 90, and puts that private driveway in front of those 3 lots.
It's too narrow, couldn't even do that if you wanted to.
You couldn't put a private driveway next to that street?
Well, they have so many waivers on rear setbacks, front setbacks, they're only 90-foot deep lots.
But you can certainly still put a driveway in the middle, all the way to your house in the back.
Ponziano built those houses down there off of 145th, and
Well, that was private, that's all private.
it's all,
Yeah.
yeah, all private drive.
When Tom Taylor,
Off of the approved street at the end of it.
Yeah, but you're talking about paralleling a public right of way.
So,
but part of the thing here is when Tom Taylor came in here to do this, make this one, the 3 lots and all that, he was going to develop that.
absolutely was.
I
He
don't
was
know.
going to develop it, that's why, and then he decided, because he had to put road in, and yada, 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 that,
So how about this?
Shouldn't that subdivision be void after he didn't do that?
This tool gets used a lot. Vacate Colfax Street and let them do their private driveway, connection.
We can't, the people
All
that,
the west. all
the west
properties
on the
west.
center line and the guys on the east own to the
They
south.
would get everybody's approval for that. Nobody wants more government, they want less. And if that would permit a new house and driveway access that everybody has access to, they would likely do that.
But there's multiple owners, I think, on the west side of the street that own the
There's
right.
4 or 5, I think, John.
Ah,
Three owners, multiple lots.
Yeah, three
Three
owners.
owners, multiple. I mean, one's a house, so, one that has a house on it. You couldn't vacate that.
There's probably
Still need
another,
an easement then for utilities, access, all that, I mean, it's not necessarily solving a problem.
But to take a junky road that you drive down and then make the person improve from there going forward to the end of their property,
Vacate it, create a PUD with the rest of the owners, and they can do whatever they want. It's like the frontage off of Perez. That's a private street that bounds the lake, that has access to all those homes. We don't maintain it. We have access to maintain utilities, and that's it.
we do plow it.
You're gonna.
Not anymore.
We not anymore, but we always
After
did.
this year, we're
Ask
not.
you to come maintain it one day.
Give them 1 year.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Till they get their one plow on Friday. And
We
that's
screwed
gonna
up.
be-
Yeah, this is a very, like Don said, slippery slope.
was the requirement when that got approved, that subdivision with Taylor, was the requirement that he had to improve the road to a certain
Yes.
point?
Yes.
All the way.
And there was never he didn't move forward with that. How is the subdivision still valid if he didn't hold up his end of it, I guess?
It got platted.
Because it was recorded,
We got it recorded.
Mm.
final plat was recorded.
And that's when they were saying they didn't do a surety bond.
But I thought when they don't do something with it in 2 years, then it reverts back.
Well, probably should have been final plat approved, recorded, given the lack of surety. Probably shouldn't have. That goes into a whole nother problem discussion, and I don't think we wanna have that here.
Now, Hanover Central's playing at home sectionals against Lake Station, so tonight is the championship game, and it started at 7:30.
So you wanna get out of here?
Yeah, I wanna say one more thing, and I'm sorry for extending this, it's only gonna take a second. I know I talked about that, PUD stuff earlier, and I've changed my mind since I said that. I want to wait till we have another plan commission member seated,
Okay.
and when Heather Dessauer's here, but I do think we need to have that discussion.
Okay.
Yeah, Greg, you remember, Schillings, right? They bought Union Station, right? So they waited until they had everything at once. They did Birchwood in order to get more duplexes along the tracks, then they did Beacon Point West to get duplexes along Rich's property, and then they did, in the industrial park there, and then they did Beacon Point East, all as a one, kind of one swoop, right, or swap. So that is the only new multifamily,
I understand that.
because
I just know that and I know there's talks going on right now with developers
yeah,
outside this plan commission. That is 100%,
by who? By you?
by developers and staff,
Oh, probably, for sure,
100%.
for sure.
That's coming here.
Oh, yeah, we'll probably get it in the next month or two.
Okay, well, don't you think
But we don't know what it is. We've
don't
never
you-
seen it.
Don't you think we should be prepared for that?
I think that
I
we
certainly
probably-
do. Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah. Fair enough.
Adjourned.
John, no yaki, not.